So it's about 10 p.m. on my first day back to work, and after how badly my morning went, you'd think I'd be happy to be asleep by now. And I tried. I was in bed by 7 p.m. But hours later, here I am, terrified that I might be getting a cold and wanting so bad to sleep, but it continues to elude me. I woke up really late this morning because last night I could not sleep until around 4 a.m. And no, I do not have insomnia anymore. I just messed up my sleep routine last week and I'm gonna be paying for it for a while. But while I'm stuck in this exhausted but sleepless purgatory, I might as well use my time productively. So, welcome to the 6th episode of this incredible podcast where I share my notes on things that you probably don't care for, but you'll be glad you know anyway. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today we're talking about a book that's all about leaving a legacy of greatness. That is Robin Sharma's Who Will Cry When You Die. This book provides so much practical wisdom and inspiration that can help you craft a life that matters to you. And I get that this is one of those books that have been overused by motivational speakers. But before you write it off, I think there's a reason why it's a popular one. I remember once a friend saw me with it and she was like, that looks like a really sad book to read. But it isn't, and I understand that the subject of mortality might carry sadness depending on where you're at, but thinking about your legacy does not have to be sad at all. Sharma's core message is that true fulfillment comes from living with intention. It's about asking yourself, what impact do I want to have on the world? And then aligning your actions with that vision. The main proposition here is that you need to stop living on autopilot and decide exactly how you want to be remembered. Recently, with the Cat Williams debacle, my key takeaway was that if you want to be remembered fondly, then you must act in a way that allows you to be remembered as such. And it makes sense, right? So how do you get to design your legacy and be remembered in a way that will leave you with no regrets? Sharma has a few recommendations, and as always, I took the notes to share with you all. The first recommendation is that you have to maintain the right perspective. A lot of bad things happen in the course of one's lifetime, and in many instances, you can easily get drawn into a wallowing mode where you just focus on your negative experiences. Sharma notes that it is possible to rethink your framing and see that things are not really as bad as you think they are. I think I talked a little bit about this in the last episode. The right perspective can move you from a state of paralysis to a state of action. You just need to remember that whatever the bad shit is, there might come a day when you won't even remember it. I like to use this when I'm struggling because I know that I have lived through shitstorms before, and after a while, I get over the pain and forget about the issue in question. Sometimes remembering that you are bigger than the problem will help you navigate it with a sense of confidence and victory instead of allowing the problem to consume you. However, you will also need to build your problem-solving muscle. It is very difficult to maintain a victorious perspective when you do not have a history of solving your problems successfully. I believe that the more you prevail through shitstorms, the easier it becomes for you to trust that the storm will pass and you will be alright. So if you haven't been through any major problems, it will be unfair to expect yourself to have the right perspective. You will wallow for quite some time, and you might even need some help getting out of that space. And that's all within the acceptable range of reactions to shitstorms. The second recommendation is that you be stupidly honest. There are many instances where you can get away with a lot by simply lying through your teeth. We've all seen that meme about someone who enjoys lying to their cab drivers, right? And it seems like a very harmless thing to do. Well, Sharma's advice here is that you need to make honesty a part of your philosophy because it is only by practicing it that it becomes a habit. If you don't make a habit out of telling the truth, you will find yourself in situations where an unnecessary lie has cost you your credibility. And unfortunately, credibility is a very important thing to have, especially within social contexts. I have a friend that I stopped paying attention to because she really loved to lie unnecessarily. But after reading this book, I started thinking that maybe her problem was that she had not intentionally made a habit out of being honest. Lying can be instinctive, and the only way to beat it is by being someone that just never lies. Kinda like Lucifer Morningstar before he went back to hell, I guess. The third recommendation is to take weekly sabbaticals. I loved this recommendation because I try to live by it. Even when I'm traveling for work, I like to have one whole day when I don't do anything work-related. So I'll be in bed all day in silence or just reading, and this allows me to keep my head straight and not get too burnt out from all the work and related interactions. A weekly sabbatical is especially important for people who work from home. It gets very easy to be on work mode all the time if your living space is also your workspace. Being intentional about taking a break can look like going for a walk, having a solo dance party, or even spending an hour or two at a restaurant or a coffee shop before going back to work. The goal is to have a designated time, even if it's not a whole day, that is just yours away from anything that is related to your work. The next recommendation is to take more pictures. This sounds really obvious, and for some people, maybe a little vain, but hear me out. Photos remind you of not just people and places, but also feelings. I love taking photos that remind me of feelings that I want to keep. Like a sunset on the lake will remind me of the vacation that I was on with my loved ones, and the attached feeling will be gratitude. I've also taken pictures of the rain on the ocean because I was feeling so alone and wanted to remember that I did not enjoy being in Diani that one time. This is not about taking photos of yourself. Just take a photo that is attached to an experience that you want to remember. Because trust me, your memory is not the fortress that you think it is. You will need something to remind you of the good times. The next recommendation is to embrace the legacy lens. This means that when designing your life, you want to think of the impact you want to have. What do you want to be remembered for or to be remembered by? And this is not just limited to when you die. Sometimes we behave badly in our encounters with other people and then we get upset when they trash talk us online or to their friends. But babe, you had every chance to act right and be remembered right and you chose otherwise. The goal here is to approach your actions each day like they are the building blocks to your life, because they actually are. So if you don't think of yourself as the kind of person that hurts people, for example, don't set out to hurt someone today. Every single action that you take plays an important role in the memories that you leave behind. When talking about the legacy lens, Sharma's point is that you need to prioritize the important things that will affect how you are remembered. Any other trivial thing should not derail you from the legacy that you want to leave behind. For example, if you lean more towards your career as your legacy, it makes sense that anything that gets in the way of that career would be an unnecessary distraction. Deciding what you want to focus on here allows you to be in charge of your epitaph, and I think that's a pretty cool thing. Conquer your inner critic. I don't know what number we're on, but the next recommendation is conquer your inner critic. Since we all have that voice in our head telling us that we're not good enough, Sharma reminds us that we can silence it with self-compassion and positive affirmations. It is easy to think that you're the only one who deals with self-doubt, and yet it seems to be a part of the human condition. There are very few people who are certain of their worth all the time, and even they get encouraged when other people affirm them. Affirming yourself, if you respond to affirmations, will save you from needing to be affirmed externally. While I do believe that getting affirmed by other people can be very important to how you see yourself, you can get looped into doing some very off-brand things for those affirmations if you become dependent on them. So if we follow Sharma's wisdom, we will affirm ourselves as often as we can in order to build the awareness of our self-worth and inherent value. Another reason why it is important to conquer that inner critic is that in most instances, we turn down opportunities that we could have succeeded in due to self-doubt. If you manage to silence that inner critic, you will be able to take more chances on yourself. You see those big projects that terrify you, those ones that your inner voice says you're not ready for. Imagine you're ready. Don't let that voice talk you out of doing the big things that interest you. Also note that the voice might never go away. So you can't sit there doing affirmations and waiting for a day when that voice won't talk you down. Start talking back right now. If the voice says that you can't, tell it that you actually can, and even prove it to yourself that you can. Because babe, you can. The next recommendation is to master the morning ritual. Recently, there has been a lot of content on morning routines, and I think for those who actually have morning routines, it's really cool to see that it's possible to get an early start and design the day that I want to have. There has also been a never-ending debacle between morning people and non-morning people, with each side wanting to claim dominance or something. This is not about that. Sharma's proposition is that you have the power to set the tone of your day by being intentional with how you start it. Sharma recommends a morning routine of silence, reflection, and goal setting to prime yourself for success and meaning. And it makes sense. I have spent quite some time trying to curate an ideal morning routine, and so far I have two. When I'm at home, I wake up and journal, then I get ready, eat, and get to work. And then when I'm traveling, I wake up and journal, work out, get ready, and then get to work, because it's usually too early for me to have breakfast. I get that the definition of a ritual requires regular practice, but don't take this to mean that you must have a perfect streak. It is possible to build a morning ritual and not stick to it so religiously. For example, I have had countless days when I struggled to get out of bed, so I didn't get enough time to do everything in my routine. On such days, you just do your best and schedule the rest for later. I remember trying so hard to work out in the morning while at home, and it was frustrating me to the point that I would just skip the whole workout. I eventually learned that because I don't wake up too early when I'm at home, I am always forced to choose between getting my work done and getting the workout in. I do my best work in the morning hours, but since I'm not waking up too early, it makes sense to use the morning hours that I have for work. Then if I work out at the end of the day, I can just shower and crash afterwards. Your morning ritual must align with how your day flows. Do not plan to go to the gym if you have to drive to work afterwards, unless you know for sure that you can make the time. Also, like most things, morning routines are flexible, so they will meet you wherever you are. You can create different routines for your different days. The routine that you have when you're at home does not have to be the same one you have when you sleep over at your folks or your friends. The point is for you to have a routine that allows you to start the day on your terms. Another recommendation that stuck with me is that you have to invest in your relationships. Sharma notes that building and maintaining strong bonds with your loved ones will bring you lots of happiness. If you have a hectic schedule, it might be easy to cut down on your social time and isolate yourself with whatever project you are working on. And I get this. Sometimes your dreams require some sacrifices. However, do not at any point sacrifice all of your time with your loved ones. You can make time for at least 1 or 2 people in your circle, no matter how hectic work gets. A quick phone call while you take a walk, a random dinner because you have to eat anyway, or even a simple movie night. All these provide you with opportunities for genuine connection. All of your relationships need nurturing, and the best way to do it is to be present with the people who matter the most. Personally, one of my biggest motivations for wealth creation is to have the time to spend with my people, because I know at the end of the day, I am at my happiest in their presence. The last recommendation that I would like to share is that you have to give back to the world. Focusing on your big goals and your people is all good, but Sharma says that leaving a legacy requires that you do more. I think it is very easy to find a cause that you care about and contribute your time, talents, or resources to make a difference. In the Kenyan space, there are a lot of organizations that are open to volunteers and donations. And if you're a church person, I think your church is always willing and ready to exploit your generosity. So find ways to give back to the world as your way of editing your epitaph. Even if you won't know how much you helped the kids at the children's home you used to visit, they will know. And I think that is the best legacy to leave behind. So those were my favorite actionable takeaways from Who Will Cry When You Die, but there may be more that I did not capture. Feel free to share what you learned if you read the book. I think depending on your specific values and aspirations, you can easily adapt these wisdoms to create a life that you can be really proud of. As always, while the idea is that you are creating a legacy that will stick around when you're gone, there is no point in doing that if you do not like the life that you are creating. I think that your legacy should fully align with your dreams and values so that your existence here is filled with joy. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end, and as always, I hope you have an incredible week ahead.